In this lecture, we're going to try and recap what we saw in the chapter. We started out by setting up a project template that we could reuse whenever we want to create a Visual Studio Code project. And we basically had to take out the tasks JSON file and the CPP properties file, put that in a separate folder together with the main CPP file that is going to be a starter file. And the intent was to be able to copy these files and put them in some folder somewhere and be able to spin off a Visual Studio Code project without having to redo the setup for compilers or the settings that we'd like in Visual Studio Code. And that turned out to save some time when we are creating these projects. We have used this template all over the place in this chapter. After that, we had a chance to write our very first C++ program. The main message here was really that we could import things using the include statement. We had to put the file we want to include in angle brackets. We had to look at the main function, and the main message was really that it is the entry point. It is the first function that runs in your program when it is started up. And we had a chance to play with this by compiling a simple program and running it from Visual Studio Code and seeing it print things to the console. That was a very big first step. After that, we looked at comments. We saw that you could use them to put little messages in your code, little messages that are not meant to be processed by the compiler, but to be read by you or other developers working on your code base. We saw two kinds of comments we could do. We could do one-liner comments using // or we could do block comments by using the syntax that we saw. After that, we had a chance to look at errors and warnings and all kinds of crazy things that can go wrong in your program. We saw three kinds of errors really. We saw compile time errors, runtime errors, and warnings. After that, we took a look at statements and functions. We saw that a C++ program is really a collection of statements. Statements are executed in order from top to bottom, and you can group your statements into functions to make them do specialized things. After that, we looked at data input and output, and we looked at two important components of data input and output in C++. STDC out is a highway that takes data from your program and prints that to the terminal. STDC in is a highway that takes data from the terminal and brings that into your program. We also took a look at two other kinds of streams, STDC error, which is going to print error messages, and STDC log, which is going to print your log messages. After that, we had a chance to look at the C++ execution model, and this is a really good mental model to have to understand some of the big features in C++. And we looked at a very detailed visualization of how that happens. We then took a look at the difference between core language, standard library, and STL features in C++. We basically saw that the core features are the fundamental blocks on top of which C++ is built. Standard library features are reusable components that we use in our everyday C++ programs. STL is a beast in that it is a collection of containers, algorithms, and iterators that allow us to navigate through those containers, potentially running algorithms on them. This is all I had to share in the chapter. I hope you found it interesting. We are going to stop here in this one. In the next one, we will start and learn about variables and data types. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.